All right. Hey guys, welcome to Sis Let's Unpack It. And so, what are we unpacking today? Diddy. That's what we are unpacking. So, I watched all 4 episodes of the documentary. And I want to say what? Out here goes. I didn't think it was, I thought it was really good, right? I think that it was done really well. I thought it was going to be worse than it was, and it wasn't that bad. I don't think that they gave me a whole bunch of information that I didn't know. So, um, what did I learn? Okay, here's something new. Bad Boy had a co-founder. I was not aware of that. I don't remember that guy's name, but I wasn't aware of that. So that was interesting. Okay. And then that Diddy charged Biggie's funeral to Biggie's estate. Now, I think, is it good business? Yes. But Diddy portrayed himself as Biggie's bestie, so I would think that he had it, that he would pay for the funeral himself. That's what I thought. So, okay, but again, I think in any other circle, people would say, "Oh, that was a smart business move." I think that's what a smart business person would say. So I could see it. No big deal. I didn't. Okay, whatever. What was surprising? I think what I was surprised about was I think Diddy really did try to kill Tupac in the studio. And I do think that Biggie didn't have any clue about it. I remember, so I was alive during that time, and I remember thinking, man, that sucks that that happened. But I really thought that Tupac had blew it out of proportion. I'm from New York, even though Pac is from New York too. We forget that, but I definitely was bad boy for life. Like it was Biggie versus Tupac, and I was on Biggie's side. So I definitely bought into, nah, he got it wrong. But he was there and knows more and put two and two together, and his math was mathing. So I do now believe that. So okay. And then what else? I've been on the fence about Faith sleeping with Tupac. How do y'all feel about it? I don't know. It could have happened. She was mad with Biggie. He was mad with Biggie. So the two of them could have been mad together and was like, we gonna really get back at him. I totally get that. So I think that could have been a thing. But I could also see that it didn't happen and that Tupac, it was just something, to say, because I think we, the public, John Q public, we get into who they present to us. And there is a portion, that is outgoing and they're honest and they're showing us, but they have to reserve something for themselves. So I absolutely think that Tupac was a kind and gentle person, man. Could he be, wild and rah rah? Yeah, but I don't think that was who he was at his core. That's what Jada had told us, and she knew him better than we did. So I don't know. He could have just been being, at that time, Tupac with the bravado, like, first off, you know what I'm saying? Fuck your click and the chick you claim, you know what I mean? Like, okay. So I just don't know. I wouldn't be mad at Faith if she did. And I wouldn't be mad at Pac if he was lying about it. So it was just is neutral, but I'm on the fence. I don't know how I feel about that. I got notes. So it's the other thing. Here's what I thought was interesting. He claimed Harlem, Did he claimed Harlem, but he really wasn't from Harlem. He was from Money Earning Mount Vernon. I was like, oh, okay. So that's a little interesting. I get it because his dad, was from Harlem and he died, I think, out there in the Harlem. Makes sense. And that you could associate with it. Like, Florida is forever a part of my life, and it feels like another part of my home, a place that I would rep. So we will start talking about Florida. I'm like, yep, that's where I'm from. And I'm not from Florida. I'm from New York, a little podunk town, but it's in my heart and I have connections and deep roots to it. So I get it. And I could see that. But I was a little surprised by that. Like when I started to put two and two together, like, oh yeah, that is right. He's not from Harlem. And now this whole Keefe D business, let me tell you something. I had to take my daughter down to the Virginia and I turned around and came right back. without stopping. So I went down the whole Keefe rabbit hole. I had been down that Keefe rabbit hole, honey. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then what? And this, that, and the third. And the fact that Keefe had a proffer deal, and because of, and now he's being charged. So they been knew that Keefe was involved in the Tupac killing. But y'all, 22 years later, however many years later, now y'all got that man hemmed up, and now you gonna put him in jail. And he said he wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. So it's so nuanced, right? Because I think people gotta go to jail. Listen, listen, listen. You did the wrong thing. You gotta, you live by the sword, you gotta die by the sword. And don't we want, retribution and vengeance for Tupac's death? Yes. And if if you gotta be the one to get it now, well, you had some fun while you was out, I guess. You know what I'm saying? And truth, you was being a menace to society. So like, yeah, go sit down somewhere. But I do just think it's crazy that the government had that information, knew that information, and they were like, we just gonna let it go. So why are y'all coming after Keefe now? I'm just a little, intrigued by that. So, and of course, Diddy can't be tied to Tupac's murder, because he can't be tied to Biggie's murder, because then that brings him back to Tupac's murder, and then he'll go down for that. So I get it. Here's what we knew already, or at least what I knew already, was that he was shady to his artists. We all knew that. Like, come on. We all grew up, we're people of a particular age. We all knew that Diddy was shady to his artists, so that ain't nothing new. And also, let's keep it 1000%. That's also nothing new to the music industry. None of them were getting paid. And, everybody had been talking about it. The Locks talked about how they ran up in his office and was like, yo, you gonna get us out this deal, and that's just gonna be that. So it's not that we didn't know. We been knew that. And remember when Lil Kim had went to the jailhouse, she said that Diddy never came to see her. So we do know that Diddy is very self-centered, and that he seemingly doesn't really care about his friends, if you will. So okay, that was nothing new. And we been knew he was abusive to women. Like we been knew that. You know what I mean? So that was nothing new. So, okay, fine. And again, I was listening to the Breakfast Club, when they were talking about Diddy, and they were like, if you start talking about just Diddy, then you got to talk about all of hip hop. And we do know that many in hip hop have been terrible and abusive towards women. So, not to say that it's right. So I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that stuff we already know. So no need to clutch our imaginary pearls over that. So here's what some things that were insightful, like, oh, Eric Sermon used to go with Misa first, but I'm thinking they had to be kids, because the people had said that Diddy and Misa got together when she was like 16. Now, this is off the, not on the topic of the documentary, but I remember going down a little Misa rabbit hole, and they saying that Justin wasn't Diddy's son. I'm going to tell you, I have always thought he is so light for Diddy to be, so chocolate. So I always wondered, and I was always looking, trying to see, like, where do I see Diddy in this young man? And I never, ever, ever, ever saw him there. And then they talked about Diddy's bodyguard, Wolf, and that really being Justin's dad. Baby, when I saw the picture of Wolf, that's Wolf the daddy. Wolf is the daddy. Now, Justin looks like Misa, but he is shaped, his shoulders. I could see his daddy Wolf in him. So then that also puts us like, what was really going on between Misa and Diddy? Because there's a whole baby that he could have also taken a DNA test to see. Did he know that Wolf wasn't his? And I feel like he had to know. Not Wolf wasn't his. Little what's his name? Not Christian. Justin wasn't his. Like, didn't he have to know? I don't know. So it makes me think about what was the relationship between Misa and Diddy. But I digress. We going back to what it is. But and then Eric Sermon going, yo, like, I was gonna, go punch him in the face when we went around the corner, and then he was like, yo, listen to this. And that just, again, as we talk about the misogyny in hip hop, you watched him just beat up Misa, your ex-girlfriend, and he was talking crazy to you, and that's why you were gonna fight him, not because he was putting hands on your ex-girlfriend, and then you don't, right? So he talking shit, y'all get around the corner, and then you like, I, it's like this music is hot. Walk me through that. That's missing some pieces for me. So help me there, Eric. You know what I'm saying? I don't like it. It didn't look good. It didn't sound good. Tell the story differently next time, please. Um, what was insightful? I think it was Diddy's insecurity. I think that was insightful. That was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. That makes sense that he was a scrawny kid, that he probably, he wasn't as down because we saw him back in the day, he wasn't attractive in that way. And that, he what did Tim say? But Tim said that if he got into a fight and got beat up, Janice wasn't having it and she was gonna whoop his ass. So now add in, that's the way that he knows. You get what you want, you go after what you want, and you fight to the death, apparently, to get it. That started early for him. So he was already flashy. That's who he is. Um, so yeah, I just think, but they talked about that when he later got, fame, that he didn't feel comfortable being around, what did I want to say, what did the bodyguard say? Was it poor people? Was it black people? But that made me think, what if the insecurity was because he felt like maybe they can see, that I feel like I don't really belong here. So because I was like, did he insecure around black people? Like, he is black people. What do you mean? I didn't quite understand that. And so as I processed through, I went, okay, well, maybe if he was super insecure, which it seems that he was, because he wanted whoever was cool at the time, who was seemingly the man, then he wanted to emulate them, he wanted to be like them. So that, then I could see, yeah, it was insecurity, and maybe being around black people, he felt like, well, they really know, can they really see that I'm not who I pretend to be? That's a possibility. So that was intriguing. I went, okay, all right, I'm tracking on that. um and I would say that they talk about like him being very controlling. Well, he was put in charge of A&R, and then he was given Jodeci and Mary J. Blige to control everything about them. I get that. I get, then at that point, how can you ever go back to not being in control of everything? That's just the evolution, I think, of being in business. I think if you are growing something on your own, I think you should know everything about your business, every morsel, every detail. I think you should know for sure. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that's the thing. I think in this documentary, they tried to really villainize him, but I wasn't able to villainize him for the reasons that the documentary wanted me to, because I saw it as nothing different than a rich man with power. Same thing. Same. I don't think that he was any worse or any better. I just think that, he just was. And I think he was flawed. And I think that if you give people money, it exacerbates whoever they are. So it's no different than people that win the lottery when they do the like 5 year, 10 year study. They find that they're typically broke. And all it does is exacerbate who you are. So if you've got a little boy that is searching and wondering who he is and emulating his father, he saw his father was a gangster, and his father was the man, according to him. And as children, we certainly idolize people that aren't there. We romanticize who they would have been. Had his father lived, he could have been an ain't shit dad. But Diddy would never come to that conclusion. You have to idolize somebody who wasn't there. You weren't there. What do you know? So if I'm gonna make up the best scenario, a scenario, I'm gonna make the best one possible. I'm certainly not gonna make it a terrible one. I can tell you that. That don't make no sense. So okay. Um Now let me say this. Like I said, Diddy was a not good person, right? So a good businessman, a not good person on the inside because of the way that he treated people. He was abusive to everybody, but that was money. that allowed him to be that way. And people either are that or they're not. And that's just that. He could have done it differently, but it all went to his head and exactly it exacerbated who he was. So, there's just that. Let's talk about Cassie. Dun, 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 dun. I never felt that bad for Cassie. I just got to be honest. I didn't. Um Now, when I say that, abuse is wrong and no woman should be in an abusive relationship. So I agree with that. And I think him being 35 and her being 19, that she absolutely was groomed. So I get that. I really do. But I also think it was very hard um to excuse the fact that she stayed as long as she stayed. And I do believe had he been broke, I don't think that she would have stayed as long as she did. So I do think that socioeconomics, I think that plays a part. Um, and I think in the documentary they said something like, "Well, you need 8 lawyers." Listen, 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 listen. I just watched a documentary on Magic City in Atlanta, the strip club, and dude was facing Mr. Magic was facing charges, and he said, "Oh, we didn't take it that serious and got a little bullshit ass lawyer." Excuse me, what? I'm so confused. If I am living my very best life ever and something arises and comes up, I get a charge of any sort and it tries to take me out and take out my livelihood, or make me stop living my very best life ever, let me tell you something, I'm gonna throw everything that I got at it. I don't want this to go away. Why would I want it to go away? What? Stop. So yeah, and the issue for Diddy, I also think, is this. Not even so much that, yes, we all knew he was abusive, but that wasn't what he was being charged with. What he was gonna have to face and what was gonna be super hard was that he's kinky. So his sexual endeavors were going to be questioned morally. Society was gonna look at that and go, "Oh my God, I cannot believe that you're engaging in all of this stuff." Kinky, whatever you wanna call it. And I think that that's what it was. And people they like what they like, and so whatever. And he paid for the prostitutes. So it's not like he was forcing people to do it. He was paying for a service. He needed 8 lawyers to come together and try and come up with a plan that was going to be palatable for society to accept and for those jurors to accept, because just because you like kinky don't mean that you are necessarily wrong. And so the jurors were saying, listen, we saw the text messages between the both of them, we looked at the timeline, there were times that he was whooping ass and that she was there excited to be at events and so on and so forth. And the same way, and again, I get it. So I don't ever want to seem like I am excusing a batterer because I'm not. But I am saying that at some point, there comes a time she did leave. She found the strength to leave. So there you have it. So that means that she could have left previously and she didn't. That's what I'm saying. And it is very hard for women to leave, especially when you have someone with all of that money, all of that influence, all of that power. That is a thing. And they do lose their lives. And I do understand that. And I know that leaving is the most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship. So I am not taking anything away from that. And I'm not saying that what happened to her was not immensely morally wrong. It was. I am saying that I think that she also went along because she enjoyed part of the lifestyle. Just saying it. That's what I'm saying. And there's that. And if he was being charged with domestic violence, that he should go to jail. I agree 1000%. Period. And that's really that. However, and that's the thing, she didn't press charges. She could have, and she didn't. And I get it. It's scary. I know. Understand. It's very hard to walk away. I get it. And also, I think she is a cautionary tale to our young girls who want to be flued out. I think if you want, a certain lifestyle, please know there are certain things that you have to put up with. And that's what that is. And I also think that, we look at Diddy and we go, oh my goodness, and how can this happen? Because he's really good at PR, and he made us think like that she was the love of his life and he just loved her, loved her, loved her, loved her. And you can't possibly, right? To hurt someone, to treat someone like that. But I can understand, and I'm not saying I agree, I'm saying I understand the mentality and the thought process that was bought and paid for, and he felt like he could do whatever he wanted to do with it, and that is where he was. And I feel like he felt the same way about Kim. And while he supposedly loved Kim down, this last album, and his last album was such a good album, um and it was all about Kim. Kim was in a golden cage. She couldn't go nowhere. She couldn't date, not for real. And she had the kids. Cassie was lucky to get away because she ain't had no kids. That's what saved Cassie, is no kids. No kids allowed her to leave. But if she'd have had kids, baby, it would have been over. Over. And so that's what I'm saying is the cautionary tale. I think some of our young girls want this life and they want to be a kept woman. It comes at a high price. There, you want to be kept, there is a certain amount of shrinking that you're going to have to do in order to stay in that relationship because of the power dynamic. It is unbalanced, it is uneven. And sometimes, a lot of times, when the power is imbalanced, men will treat you according to, how they feel that they can. So there's that. What's my big issue? I'm gonna tell you, my biggest issue, honestly, was the people around him. So the people in the documentary, they're all talking about him, but after they got fired, that's when it was, and he was so horrible. And my question is, but when were you gonna walk away? Right? When were you gonna walk away? Capricorn Clark said, well, I was preserving him for the culture. Nah, sis, I'm sorry. You was preserving yourself. You could have walked away. You knew he was whooping Cassie's ass, just like when you found out that she was with Cuddy and you were like, bitch, what you got me into. Yeah, she had your job in jeopardy. So, and that's the other thing. We talk about this with Cassie. Cassie was playing with somebody else. Not when you fear for your life. You what? Come on, what are you doing with Cuddy? When you know that he's nuts. And then Capricorn said he kidnapped her and drove her through the hills. Capricorn. And then what she say? And I think that the jury was just enamored by a celebrity. You were. And that's the thing, the sentiment sometimes from the people, it was from Capricorn, it was from the security officer, it was from the co-founder of Bad Boy. Everybody was like, and he was so terrible. Yeah, but you were around all the shenanigans. And perhaps had you blown the whistle way back then, or had you quit, had you told a couple people, maybe he wouldn't have become the monster that he became. Now, listen, I am not blaming you guys. And I know it just sounded like that. I'm not, because at the end of the day, it is for him to, manage his behavior, himself, what he's doing. He's a bad person for the way that he handles people. Done. Fine. Period. Exclamation point, as a matter of fact. However, I just don't like that it went on for so long that you wanted then a jury to convict him of the crimes that he committed that you know about and that you told, but the law doesn't work that way. They're given a specific question and then they have to answer that specific question. And it doesn't allow for nuance. It doesn't allow for gray. It's black or it's white. It's yes or it's no. And so that's what happened. So I just felt like people being like, the jury got it wrong. Did they? And I say that only because you yourself stayed around, Capricorn, co-founder of the place, like all the people. And in other documentaries, there were other employees that talked about it, even Little Rod. And here's the thing, and I'm gonna be honest. I said I was gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest about all of my thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent. I saw a documentary and Little Rod, or whatever his name was talking about he was a producer then, and I didn't know any of his music or anything. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, what is he talking about? So I kind of dismissed him. And then I found out he did my favorite song on the album. And that he produced essentially the album. And it's such a good album. I love that album. And then I gave him more credibility. I was like, oh, well, no, but here's the thing, right? I understand the situation that those people put themselves in. And like for this producer, Little Rodney, whatever his name is, and I don't mean it like that, but I can't think of his name. I'm terrible about some of these things. It's that he just needed the break. If I just do this, it'll set me on a trajectory and change my life. And that is the truth. That's the truth. Being able to say you worked with Diddy set you up in the industry for sure. So there were things and parts of himself that he had to quiet, that he had to suppress, that, he had to go to God with a couple of things, I'm sure, to be able to endure. But that's what it was. That's the price that seemingly people decided that they were going to pay. Is this going to benefit me in the long run, or is it benefiting me now? So people stayed around Diddy and they accepted piss poor behavior and treatment because of the benefits that being around Diddy provides. Period. Capricorn. And let's think about this. If you're the assistant, wherever he's staying, you're staying, or very close to. He's going out to dinner, you're going out to dinner. Like, it's a good time. And just like in abusive relationships, you love the fun stuff and you just don't like the bad stuff so much. And how much of that are you able to excuse away to be able to continue to enjoy that? Bodyguard, same thing. That means if the bodyguard was there, he was in the club, he was seeing the same things. And bodyguard is getting booty just like, Diddy's getting booty. So if Diddy's getting, A1 celebrity booty, then I could tell you the bodyguard's getting C and D, and those chicks are cute. So there are benefits to you having been there. You was watching him whoop ass. He was whooping Cassie's ass. He was whooping Kim's ass. He was whooping, I think, the chef's ass. He was whooping everybody's ass. And you were all right with that as long as you were getting paid. No, like, I want to have the conversation, so let's just have it. And I think because when R. Kelly, when all that came out about R. Kelly, everybody was hollering, well, what about the handlers? What about the handlers? Well, we watched them tell the story on the documentary because the co-founder, he knew what was going on. He knew the shenanigans that were going on, and he was able to tell them, and he was okay with it until he got fired. And then it's a different tune. It's, man, he sucks. So I'm just saying, I was interested to see what the entourage looked like, how the people were able to rationalize their ability to stay around him. And we got to see it on the documentary. So, what's next? Okay, Kalina. Is it me or did Kalina look high to y'all? Kalina looked high to me. I was like, what is going on here? So here we go. So Kalina says, you definitely want to be around that energy. I totally believe that. Kalina ain't did shit since that whole Diddy situation. And Kalina was always weird. And I remember when Kalina came out and gave a statement in support of Diddy, I nearly fell over. I clutched these imaginary pearls and I went, oh, not you siding with him when we know he's abusive. So what was interesting to me is that Kalina was like, yo, I'm down and out too. I need when I called and asked for $5,000, you told me you ain't have it, and now you on my line. It makes me wonder, Kalina, did you get your $5,000? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you get your 5,000? And she said, she needed to be able to sleep, to look herself in the mirror and to be able to sleep at night, that she didn't see it. So she was comfortable making the statement. I guess we'll never know. I just hope in that case, I hope you got your 5 Gs. You know what I'm saying? I hope you got what you needed. Cause yeah. But that Dawn situation stuck out to me the most. The Dawn situation stuck out to me the most. Why? Because he was so adamant about it. He was like, yo, I can't believe Dawn. And so when someone says that, I think because for him, he feels like Dawn was in it. Like whatever she said happened, I think she was also around some other shit that happened and ain't say shit then. So it's kind of like, what, you were over here doing da, 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 da. So I think that that seems to be, seemingly that's me, I don't know, why he was so bothered by Dawn, and he seemed to have gone the hardest, which again I understand, and it looks a little something like this. If I'm so terrible, why did you bring your linky ass over here and work with me? Because after Danity Kane, remember Dawn was a part of Danity Kane, so after Danity Kane, he's now with Dawn and Kalina, and they doing Dirty Money. And I think Dawn did work on this Love album. I think that was the issue. I think it was like, yo, wait, if I'm so horrible, why the fuck did you bring your ass around here a second time? And I definitely subscribe to that. And I'll also, when that was coming out, I remember one of my thoughts was, if hold on, it lost it, but it's gonna come back to me. Hold on, here we go. Okay, the thing about Dawn was, oh if he was that stunned about Dawn being able to sue him in this lawsuit, was he really stunned at his behavior? And I asked that question because he had so many yes men. So, is it that when you reach a certain pinnacle or a certain point in your life, you make enough money, you have enough influence, and everybody is yesing you to death? Are you able then to see a true yes or a forced yes? Are you able to know? Because I'm sure as he's watching all these documentaries or knows that these documentaries have come out and the people that are speaking out about him, some of them I'm sure he's like, yeah, I could own that. But some of them I think he is like, yo, I know you ain't talking. Because to be around him and all that, you have to be comfortable with a certain amount of things that are going on. And I'll be honest, I remember one of my sisters knew a woman who worked with Diddy, and she had gone to a Diddy party, and she went to get, like, they had a whole bunch of candies on the table, and she went to get a candy, and her friend was like, don't touch that. So everybody knew the shit was laced. So for the people pretending that they didn't know, seemingly people did know not to indulge in the Diddy-ness of it all. So how does he know? And I guess maybe that's the fear some people have. And I'm not a Diddy apologist, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just asking a question, because I think it's nuanced, because I think people are good and bad. They're both. They're a mixture of both. And I'm just wondering, how does one know if you're so rich and so powerful and you're surrounded by nothing by yes men? How do you know what's real and what's not? How do you know when people are really fucking with you and when they not? How do you know they, enjoy your company and that they're just around trying to get on and trying to, to get what they can get from being around you? Because I gotta tell you, I imagine being around Diddy in the highs when it's fun and awesome and wonderful. I'm sure it's fucking amazing. Because here's this, mama loves to party. I came out to the party game late in life because I was busy, being a mom. But now that I'm out here, I still 45, still want to stand on couches. I still want to go to the club. I still want to tear it up. Yes, I do. I could never drop it like it's hot. These knees always been bad. But I still want to be out. And if I could twerk, I would, but I can't. But I want to. I want to try. I want somebody to teach me, like, what's up? And so when I learn, I still want to be outside and I still want to twerk. What's up? So I can imagine that a Diddy party and being in that energy is amazing. And I'm not going to act like it's not, just because, he's, painted as a monster. So there's just that. Aubrey saying that no matter how it shakes out, she's always going to be attached to him. And that's true, right? We watched her get publicly humiliated, on the TV when he fired her. And to know that there was backstory that he was sexually harassing her, what was she gonna do? He's the gateway to your lifeline. because if he blackballs you, you're blackballed. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, Aubrey didn't do a whole bunch after the Danity came. She was a pretty girl. Although I got to tell you her story, like her mom saying that, she was going to school to be a lawyer. And then her mom was like, girl, forget that law school shit and come do this singing thing. It That don't make a whole bunch of sense. My kid can hold a tune. And she's set to go to law school. I would not go, girl, come on and go into the music business. That's just not something I would say. So, these documentaries, we got to change, some of the parts. I don't know. And maybe not, but it just seemed a little off. But I'm not going to lie to you either. I remember Aubrey I remember thinking Aubrey wanted Diddy. Like, so I'm just gonna put that out there. I watched Making the Band. This is all my ish. I'm in this era. I remember when they had to walk to Junior's to get the cheesecake. Okay, all right. And just like matter of fact, Babs said it. Babs said you could have fame and fortune, or you could just have fame. And she chose fame. And I ain't mad at that. And so I'm not mad at Aubrey for choosing that either. And I'm sure that Aubrey through the years has made money the way that she would have made if she was a lawyer. So I think it all worked out. But to find out that someone said they saw you being sexually, assaulted and abused and not having any memory of it, she's left with this big question mark. Did it happen? I don't know if it happened. And there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and they believe that even if you don't remember, your body will. And I feel like for Aubrey, we got to take some shorts or whatever gifts come to us. And I think that not knowing is a gift. And I think that that allows you to say, maybe it did, but I don't remember it. So I'm just going to continue on with my life. You know what I mean? Um, Side note is that I had a similar experience where I do think that I was sexually abused as a child, but I don't know. There are certain clues that come up, certain ways that I thought about myself, certain people that came around, because I think that when that happens, I think predators know. I think they can sniff it. I think they have a sixth sense about it. And I did have predators come and they were around. So it makes me think, and that just further makes me think that maybe that did happen. However, I don't have memory of it. And not to say I don't claim it, I don't know. But I'm just working on the issues that have presented themselves um in my life from my childhood. However they present themselves, that's the work that I do. So that would be my advice to Aubrey. Aubrey, don't worry about whether it did or it didn't. Focus on what's coming up and healing that. If I think it is a gift that you don't remember. And I wouldn't try to, because I think that that is something um that is going to take a great deal of time. So if you don't have to take ownership of it, I wouldn't. What do I know? You know what I mean? But I think she's right. Then as long as because now I want him to suffer. Not suffer, but I want him to have consequences for his terrible, very bad behavior. And I totally understand that. Um Another thought. I think they had to pay handsomely to get his the footage that he had recorded prior to going to jail. Cause I'm sure he paid them and it ain't like he ain't like he's broke. He got money. So how is it that they ended up with it? And I'm sure it went to the highest bidder and they bid something really high. So okay. So I thought that was very interesting, I'll tell you. Um And Tim, the childhood friend, said, I think that the co-founder got the worst deal. And I would agree with that. Can you imagine having 25% of Bad Boy? I mean, that's like Dame Dash. You know what I'm saying? Dame Dash, didn't he have what did he have half? He had a third of Rockefeller. And he is out here very, very not rich. But according to him, he still owned everything and he's a millionaire still. All right, Delulu land. But yeah. And I absolutely could see a life where Diddy walked in and like bullied him into giving up his 25%, but the fact that he had no other recourse to recoup any of that money, that is like you had a gem in your hand. Like it's like having the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and somebody taking it from you and you never being able to get it again. Like damn. And he went through homelessness. Like his shit was all fucked up, and I feel bad for him. Like that totally sucks. Like I can't imagine what that feels like and the inner work that you have to do to know you had it and lost it is a bitch. So I do think that he got it the worst because Cassie at the end of the day got a payout. So, you know, um, overall, what are my thoughts about Diddy? I think Diddy got exactly what rich white men in America get, and that is off. You know what I mean? They go home. There were a couple of times that he could have been quote unquote stopped or punished or whatever. And money was the name of the game, and he had it and he won. Remember, Shine did 10 years. Now, I think someone has said, I've heard like that Shine got paid off. I don't know that to be the case or whatever. And I don't know, I'm not saying everybody has a price, but we got a price. We got a price for the things that we will accept, that we will do. There's a price. And so if it seems like I'm sitting here like I don't got a price, baby, I got a price. I got a price. There are some things that I can absolutely rationalize for a certain price. Yes. Yes, I can. And I'm not ashamed to say I am human and that is just that. Yes. We draw the line at different places and that's all of us and that's the thing that we have to answer for, but yes, I have a price. Like many. Um but yeah, I mean, listen, Diddy was a kid that grew up without a dad, perhaps in an abusive household. Um he was groomed to be something big. He wanted to be something big and stellar and spectacular. And also at the end of the day, what we're not gonna do, what we can't do, just like R. Kelly, just like what's his name? Bill Cosby, just like OJ, all of them, we cannot take away their talent. They have incredible talent and we can't take it away. So just because you do a bad thing doesn't negate the talent, because he did give us wildly talented, things and products that we, really appreciate. He is a hustler and a marketer. His work with Ciroc, I mean, unreal. He had a TV channel, right? Revolt. He had his own TV channel. So he did give us great things. He was helping with Rock the Vote. He put a lot of money into into Black America. He put a lot of money into white America as well. So we cannot deny his talent, his music, chef's kiss, like real talk. He gave us the 90s. He was the one that was giving us sampled music of the music that we love from our heyday and put it over, and he gave us, rappers and whatnot. So his talent, his ear, his style, undeniable. Undeniable. And for all things good that he was terrible and awful at them as well. So he's a flawed human. He has, he is in jail. Um, and I don't, karma does not work in that, oh, you did a bad thing and you will see, the consequences of that thing immediately. No. And I think that maybe, there many people think that he should be in jail for the remainder of his life, and he probably won't. At this point, because of the statute of limitations, I think I think they can only be civil cases, and good luck getting money from civil cases. I think the Goldman family from OJ, I still don't think they ever got their money from OJ. And that happened billions of years ago. So trying to sue and civil court and get your money is very, very hard. And most of them will not. And that's terrible. There's a woman on there that says that, she was sexually assaulted by him. And there was never ever any consequences for, what happened to her. The fact that he would put it up on on screens and show people. However, where did he get that from? So the truth of the matter is, I think what it all boils down to for me, I think Diddy was an insecure young man, and I think he idolized people that were also not good, and that him trying to be like them, he had to emulate the things that they were doing. And those times and those spaces were never healthy and safe for women or for artists. Again, Andre Harrell was the one that taught him the music business game. So that means Andre Harrell must have taught him that these contracts are terrible and awful, and he just made it better for himself. That's where he learned that. He had gotten that from somebody else who would show videos of them abusing women. That's terrible and awful. If around him the conversation is, fuck this bitch and, so on and so forth, then you could do what you want. It's unfortunate, but that could have been some of the things that shaped him. And so for us to act like what happens in our childhood and our young adulthood when we're forming who we are, that isn't a crazy influence, well, we can see it is, and it exacerbated who he was. And because of this and because of this money, nobody stepped in and said, yo, chill the fuck out. Stop this. There's another way to do it and another way to be. That's not what happened. He was rewarded for very bad behavior. And this is the monster that we got. It's terrible. Um, so, you know, there's that. And I think lastly, they were talking about his publicist, like, oh, he hired his publicist, and they like showed the conversations he was having with his lawyer again, and all of his publicists showing up. They were doing what they were supposed to do. Now, we already talked about that. If you get your dream life and somebody has come to you, whether you did it or not, you are going to defend it. I don't know many people that are going to say, yep, I did it. It was me. And now I'm going to, go and have the consequences that I deserve. I don't know many. And a terrible thing that happens in our community is this. We have that no snitching. Your man's is in jail because they did the shit, and then you gotta free your man's on a t-shirt. No, they need to be sitting their ass in there. Why are we playing that game? So we can't have it on one hand and then not have it on the other. If we want to hold people accountable, let's hold people accountable. Let's hold the whole system accountable. Which also, my last point is 50 Cent, excuse me? Right? I get that 50 made this documentary because he don't like Diddy. Okay, fine. And if I'm being honest, I'm surprised that it wasn't worse. I thought it would have been terrible. It really wasn't that bad as I'm sure it could have been. So I think that 50, for whatever reason, and he was the EP, right? So there's directors and right, there's a whole bunch of people. He's not the only one, but I think it could have been worse. But should we do a documentary on 50 Cent? Because 50 Cent ain't been no angel. And I personally do not like 50 Cent because he is a bully. I do not like bullies. And 50 Cent bully his artists all over the place. And sometimes he's shooting shots for no reason at all. Like, what are you doing? It's one thing to not like somebody. And also, like, we could talk about, the issue that he has with his son or his son has with him, or there's been talk of 50 putting his hands on the women's. Him and Vivica broke up, and he clowned Vivica for forever. And I think I was saying I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and that had been mentioned on the Breakfast Club that, well, like, Diddy, not Diddy, 50 Cent is bringing down, another black man. Like, we do have to stop this shenanigans. Wrong is wrong and right is right. And may people have the day that they deserve. And unfortunately, in America, the way that it works is if you have money, you don't get the day you deserve. It is very seldom that happens. The fact that Harvey Weinstein is in prison is a miracle. Jeffrey Epstein is supposed to be, unalive, but I do not believe that at all. I believe that he is on his island because he had too much information on too many people and he was super duper rich. I do not believe that he is dead. And that's why they talk about letting out Ghislaine Maxwell. And if we're at it and being honest, how is Diddy any different than your current sitting president? That people knew all the shenanigans about him and voted for him. So while, like, oh, don't keep this black man down, this black man is going to be fine. He is. Diddy's going to be fine. Because the system is working the way that it was intended to, which is rich men don't get consequences. There's that. R. Kelly was just too broke. But we had heard about R. Kelly for 20 years and his shenanigans. And so my partner asked, like, who do you think is worse, R. Kelly or Diddy? And I think R. Kelly, for me, is far worse because they were children and he wasn't letting them go. He had a harem of them in there, locked away and carrying on. Like, Lord, he wasn't taking care of his children. You say what you want about Diddy and all his 17,395 children, but he was taking care of them and he just made that little one, which is also very surprising that I thought that he had that little one with this woman. I don't know her name, but he had that other Asian chick that had the babies, but he was kicking them out of her. So I don't know. It's some shenanigans and all I could say. And so again, right? And how about this? Let's get into that. She was getting her ass beat and still was like, yep, and I want to be with him. And Young Miami was over there playing too, and he did wonders for her career. The Diddy effect is very real. And so yes, it's unfortunate and I hate that. And I hate that, again, that he assaulted women and they are not going to get justice. That is terrible. Um Aubrey being sexually harassed by her boss. I have been there. I know that it is terrible and not be able to do anything. Who she going to tell on Diddy? Who? If she ever wanted to work again ever. In my case, I didn't report it because it was a community leader in my very small podunk town. You know what the question is? Oh, why did you do this? They put the victims on the stand and they make us have to justify somebody else's bad behavior and how we respond to it. It's terrible. And when I was able to leave, I did. That's that. So that was a lot. But listen, it was 4 whole hours long. So I had a lot to talk about. We had a lot to say. So that's been, let's unpack it. And I think we unpacked it. I don't know what y'all think. What should we unpack next? Anywho, it's been me. We've had a time. I hope you'll come back and see me again. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.